people? It is Todd Shannon, data scientist, social commentator, getter of buckets. What are we talking about today? I am here to declare definitively, with no equivocation, no ambiguity, today I am 100% committing my support to President Voldemort. He who must not be named. If you've been following me as of late, then you know that I have a pseudonym for he who must not be named. You see him in the thumbnail. You know who I'm talking about. I can't say his name because apparently the overlords on this platform, I have seen it. It is my personal opinion. It is my belief that once you say his name, your content is suppressed. I'm going with that principle, right? I'm just going to stick with that because I've seen it. And the reason why, I want to explain to you why I am 100% on Team Voldemort, President Voldemort, he who must not be named, is because I want to set this up by explaining to you a principle that I learned from the great Thomas Sowell. The great Thomas Sowell said something that I think should govern, and everyone everywhere should understand this principle. And I even talk about this in my upcoming video, the second part of Why Democrats Are Wrong About Everything. Look forward to that sometime this weekend coming. But here's the principle. In life, there are no solutions. There are only trade-offs. The utopian view of the world is that if something is good, we must maximize it, and we can maximize all the good things. This is how people think when they are naive and quite frankly, just they don't know any better. The truth of the matter is that oftentimes, and many times in life, a good thing can only be maximized at the expense of another good thing. Okay? This is the trade-off principle, right? We think about these things in gross categories where we say, well, this is good, so therefore we should always do this thing. Well, in an ideal world, yes, we should do the good thing, right? And all the good things must be maximized simultaneously, but that's not always feasible. Okay? So here's what must be understood about President 45, Voldemort, he who must not be named. This is the reason why he needs to win. It's because the Democrats need to be taught a lesson. There aren't any marginal policy gains that will make up from what we will lose if the Democrats succeed in torpedoing Mr. Voldemort. The Democrats for nearly 8 years have lied and cheated and smeared and fabricated information. I can't, for those of you who don't understand this, it's hard to put it into words, the volume of dishonesty. This is what must be understood. If Mr. Voldemort can get over the hump, then what will have been definitively proved is that ultimately, even though they had some short-term success, ultimately it did not work. And there's a principle in economics and in just behavior in general is that if you reward something, you get more of it. And if you penalize something, you get less of it. Well, let me explain something to you. If the Democrats are successful in removing Voldemort from contention, then they will never, ever stop doing this. This will be our life forever. They'll never stop doing it. And in this one particular case, there is something where Mr. Voldemort has been so dishonestly treated. He's been so maligned unfairly in a lot of ways that he's going to have a personal vendetta. And while that normally is a bad thing, that typically is a bad thing, in this very specific case, it's actually going to be a good thing. And I'll explain why. There's a reason why there should never be just one world superpower with nuclear arsenals or with nuclear capabilities, right? Because if only one person has them, then literally they control everything, right? And if that regime becomes evil, then there's no stopping them. They can do whatever they want. So if there's at least one check and balance on a world superpower with respect to nuclear capabilities, then what you have is what we call mutually assured destruction, right? If you use yours, then I'll use mine, and then everyone's going to die, which means that effectively no one's ever going to use it because no one wants to blow up the world. Whatever your objective is, if you're dead, you can't accomplish it, right? So mutually assured destruction is a very powerful thing, right? And it's an incentive for those, even with diabolical ends, not to go there because it's not going to work. The equivalent to only one world superpower having nuclear capabilities is that if they are the only country willing to use it. See, if there's only one party willing to use it, then it's the same as them being the only one who has it. And what the Democrat Party has shown is that they are willing to use their nuclear weapons. They have pressed the button. The mask is all the way off. If you understand, once again, what I was talking about, the sheer volume of dishonesty, then you'll understand that they have gone nuclear. They have put all their eggs in one basket to stopping President Voldemort. And this is why it cannot be allowed to succeed. Not only can it not be allowed to succeed, but there must be consequences. Their heads must roll. What they have done for the last 8 years, there must be a recompense. There must be a vengeance coming. And I think that President Voldemort is the only one right now with the motivation to do that. Yes, it's personal. It's personal, but it has to be personal. See, because what we saw in the last election cycle is that there was a lot of, talk, a lot of political rhetoric of lock her up, talking about Hillary Clinton. Lock her up, lock her up, lock her up. But what we found is that once Voldemort got into power, he didn't actually act on that. What we found is that was just rhetoric. That was just him being him. It was just the same thing as the name calling and the other things that he did in 2015. It really wasn't personal. It was just like, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is my style. This is how I'm attacking it. And this is how I plan on, winning the hearts of the people. It was a strange way to do it. I think a personally flawed way to do it, but he did it and it worked. So we can't argue with it. But what we saw is that he really was never serious about that, because if he was, he would have done it, right? He would have directed the Department of Justice to pursue those charges and those obvious crimes, but he didn't do that. But see, the Democrats, they didn't do that. They didn't play by those games. They weren't playing chicken. They were serious. Once they realized that they had been humiliated by President Voldemort, Mr. 45, then they said, wait a second, we've got to press this nuclear button. And now what we see is what the consequences are when you allow someone to go all the way across the line without any consequence. What we need to have in this next cycle is so many heads rolling in the streets. And I think that there's only one person right now, because it's so personal. And there again, normally this is not a good thing. But in this particular case, it needs to be personal, because that will be the motivation to make sure that there's no stone left unturned. So many heads need to roll. From the Biden administration, there are so many people who need to go to jail. To me, that's the only way justice is going to be served. The Biden crime family, all of this other stuff, they need to go to prison. And that's the nuclear option. So they push the nuclear button. We got to push the nuclear button. And there should be mutually assured destruction. And we have to make sure that happens so that they never try this crap again. Don't tell me about, oh, this guy's better at this policy and this guy's better at that policy. No. In this particular instance, the trade-off with President Voldemort is that all of his flaws and all of his quirky personalities, his pettiness, his sometimes vindictiveness, in this particular case, in this very narrow case, this is actually what we need. And we have to ensure that this never happens again. What are your thoughts, friends? Do you agree with me? Do you think this is a sound way to approach it? I think this needs to happen. I think that there cannot be any ambiguity about the nature of what we intend to do once we get back in power. And I think we need to have someone who is willing to swing the axe, who's willing to press the nuclear option and make sure that this never happens again. Let me know in your comments, friends. Till next time, God bless you.